What is poppin', guys? You got your go to the Chim Chargers here, bringing you our team builder for the GBA finals. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't. I tried, but I am not Lord Emvee. This is probably apparent by now. No, I am Ruppy, or Pokerup, or Rupdad, or however you wish to refer to me. So, what on earth is going on here, and why am I trying to imitate Lord Emvee? Aside from my similar team composition in the ABL, you might be asking. Well, this is a bit of a special side video I wanted to throw out here for you guys. Basically, my buddy Howler and I have kind of developed this little trend we're trying to do every season for the GBA, where we both pick a conference, and whoever ends up representing it as its champion in the GBA finals, we take their teams and we do a little draft format battle between one another using their respective teams. We did this last year as well, however, I was unable to actually upload anything for that, simply because of the fact that the footage got corrupted somewhere along the line and it was irreplaceable, which was very annoying, to be honest. Hopefully, we do not get a repeat performance here, because I would like to be a little more consistent. But anyway, so, as you can probably tell by the way I tried to introduce this video, I'm packing the team builder and the actual battle all into one, just trying to see how well this is going to work. So, I'm going to explain the team I'm bringing, and then we will get into the actual battle that he and I did. We did actually do this battle before the GBA finals themselves happened, so basically this was our prediction for how that played out. In any event, as you can probably tell, I am taking the spot for Lord Emvee and his San Diego Chim Chargers. Howler took the spot of Sceptile MC and his San Francisco Arcaniners. That team, doing this in the style of Emvee, of course, is Mew, who is his Z captain, Garchomp, Togekiss, Raikou, Suicune, Registeel, Superior, Mineshout, Entei, Drapion, and Mismagius. List should appear to your right momentarily. So, basically running this along the same lines as how Emvee and I prepped for this game, we at least both saw the same exact thing. Garchomp was a giant problem. Granted, I was thinking more along the lines of, without Rain, Emvee recognized that with Rain, Garchomp is a little more manageable. But the thing is, I'm just gonna take a step right now. Unlike Emvee, I did not bring Rain. He and I actually only brought 2 similar Mons to the game that Howler and I played for our little mock finals here. Whereas Howler actually brought 5 of the same 6 Mons, not sets, but at least the same Mons, that George actually brought to that game. I believe the only difference between the two is Howler brought Togekiss where George did not. Which kind of surprised me too, because I saw the kind of problem Togekiss was going to cause as well. Emvee recognized that as well, and he prepped accordingly, as I did as well. But lo and behold, Togekiss didn't even come for him, so he didn't have to worry about it. Togekiss, well, I'll leave that for when we actually get into battle. So as far as the team I decided to bring, first mon I'm bringing is Cresselia, Cress in Peace. You might be curious as to why I decided to bring this, and I'm a bit surprised Emvee didn't, to be honest. Because looking over the team matchup, yes, I am aware that the Arcaniners had Drapion on their roster, but Drapion's actually pretty manageable for Emvee's team as far as I could see. And once that thing goes down, depending on how it's EV'd, Cress actually puts in a huge amount of work against this team. Registeel can tank hits from it, but that's, depending on the Registeel set, that's an easy +6 boost if you were to do Calm Minds. So it did kind of baffle me a bit that Emvee did not bring Cress to the actual finals but I'm not going to question how the man played the game. To be fair, and I'm free to spoil this considering, you know, the finals have been up for like 2 weeks now. Had it not been for the unfortunate series of events on that last turn, Emvee would have gone all the way, which is really sad, because the guy is a phenomenal player, and he's really starting to influence me in terms of draft format. Like, Emvee, well, okay, I'll gush more on that later, I suppose. let's just get the team builder out of the way, because that's what you guys are here for. And I don't want this to drag on forever like my team builders normally do. So we got Cresselia here. Eevee's spread is basically just to give this thing some speed, and mostly just to tank hits, more so on the physical side. Special side is easily compensated by Calm Mind. Psyshock, Ice Beam, Sub-Calm Mind set. It's relatively standard-ish as far as the crest goes, at least in terms of the moveset, but Psyshock, obviously, stab, will hit things very hard once I get enough boosts up. Ice Beam, definitely there for the likes of Garchomp and Togekiss, and to at least give me a neutral option on things like the Mew, which otherwise just eat up Psyshocks all day long. It also does, if I am safely behind a sub, it allows me the chance to hit Drapion fairly hard too, without having to fear eating a hit from it. Next mon I'm bringing is Impressive the Empoleon. EVs are kind of all over the place, but this thing's biggest purpose was the same reason that Emvee brought it to the vast majority of his games. Get up rocks and keep them off my side of the field. Granted, rocks didn't necessarily bother the team I brought. Maybe, I think Emvee and I both thought along the same lines for this one. Rocks weren't necessarily a huge problem, but I wanted to basically, while they did bother one mon on this team, as you'll soon see, that I decided to bring, it ultimately became irrelevant because said mon didn't even end up getting into the game, but I'll get more into that later. Beyond that, I have Roar on there just to phase out his own setup sweepers, like if he wanted to predict me to switch Empoleon out if he had Garchomp in, and then try to set up an SD on me. More so for the Suicune if it wanted to sit there and start spamming Calm Minds, because I was not about to get into a Calm Mind war with that of all things. Also, my attempt to try to get Superior out of there before it could spam Leaf Storm and get enough boosts up. Impressive could actually take a Leaf Storm or two from Superior, depending on what health it was at. And Scald is there, so this thing is not complete setup fodder, and obviously to try to get the burns. Went with a Shuckaberry, just because that basically gave Impressive one relatively free switch into Garchomp at some point if I needed it. Because I could eat one Earthquake and be able to respond accordingly, whether it be getting rid of rocks, trying to burn it with Scald, roaring it out if he tried to SD, that kind of thing. Time for one of the only two mons that Emvee and I both brought to this game, though we both had different ideas on how to go about this, because we both brought Chimp Cat the Lando T. I decided to go with a Scarf set, more so just because I just had this feeling in the back of my mind that Scarf Lando could put in a ton of work on this team once a few certain things were eliminated or just heavily dented, to be able to pick things off if necessary down the home stretch. Earthquake, Stone Edge, Knockoff, U-Turn, it's all relatively standard as far as a Scarf Landorus is concerned, but against George's team, at least on paper to me, it looked like it got the job done, and if it got the job done, then I was certainly going to bring it to this mock final against Howler. Moving on to the last three members of the team, the second and final mon that Emvee and I both brought to this game, Magnificent the Magnezone. Now, I did not, unlike Emvee, I did not want to bring both Magnezone and Virizion, because I felt for the most part they actually accomplished the same tactic in this game. Granted, they checked a couple of different things, they had a couple of weaknesses, they shared a couple of weaknesses they didn't take on so well, but I felt for the most part they both accomplished the same task, so I figured I was only going to bring one, and when I really got down to nitpicking, Magnezone to me had the least amount of weaknesses, especially when you consider how big a threat Togekiss is against it. Well, how big a threat Togekiss is to Emvee's team in general. Could have definitely gone with a different set, though. I read an Air Balloon, again for the Garchomp, which gives me a free switch into its Earthquake. This thing can definitely eat a Dragon Claw because of the resist. EVs are there just to basically give this thing a bit of bulk, maximize special attack, get some speed to be able to utilize as necessary. Full Switch, T-Bolt, Flash Cannon, HPI's pretty much covered the vast spectrum of what he could bring. It hit just about everything, yet either neutral or super effectively. I really, in hindsight, should have ran Analytic, to be honest. That is the one thing that Emvee, I knew the moment that I knew basically going into this game, Emvee was going to run Analytic, and I probably should have too. I ran Magnapole on the off chance Registeel did come, so I could trap it, and then, even though I don't have HP Fire or anything super effectively, I could just beat the thing down slowly but surely and chip away at it. Especially since Registeel does not have the most reliable forms of recovery. It does get rest, but that boils down to, in Howler's case, would he have decided to bring rest on it or not? And Analytics just would have given me so much more power, because Magnapole kind of seemed useless in the long run, just because there was the very likely potential Registeel didn't come, because it actually has a bit of a problem against this team, and I realized that while I was watching Emvee's team builder. Next up, we got Slime the Alolan Muck. Decided to go with an AV set just to devour the large amount of special attackers well, he doesn't necessarily have a large amount, but this thing can deal with Mew fairly well. It eats anything from Togekiss, it can eat hits from Raikou, Suicune, Superior definitely, Mismagius. Basically, all of his special attackers, Muck pretty much is a very solid answer to. And with an Assault Vest, that allows me to be able to eat their hits even better and be able to respond accordingly. Moveset is pretty much what you would expect from an Alolan Muck. Knockoff, Poison Jab, Shadow Sneak, Pursuit. Pursuit was there more so for the Mew than anything else, just try to catch him on the way out. I mean, I am aware he does have a Guard Chomp, and that was one of the reasons why I was hesitant to bring this thing. But the work it put in against all of its special attackers was something I just could not ignore. Especially when you pretty much put the EVs all over the place like I did to be able to maximize this thing's offensive and defensive capabilities and give it just enough speed to outspeed some of his slower threats like, say, the Registeel, that kind of thing. And last but not least, you see Night Knight the Dragonite here. Night Knight was the main reason I brought Defog to this game, simply because of the fact that I wanted to be able to abuse multi-scale at least once to be able to get off a D-Dance if necessary. Because with enough holes punched in things, one D-Dance and Night Knight could have torn through this entire team. I mean, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, and Thunder Punch pretty much cover the vast majority of the spectrum on his team, and I even brought the Electrium Z to fire off a Gigabolt Havoc for things like Suicune, who could easily be very physically bulky, to be able to eat hits from Dragonite otherwise. Would have been nice to also catch the Togekiss off guard. So, that was kind of my game plan here. For the most part, the idea was kind of to wear him down defensively and set the stage for either Dragonite to come in and tear through his team, or for Cresselia to safely get behind a sub, set up a ton of Calm Minds, and just beat his team down from there. And I honestly thought it was a really solid strategy going in, considering once Drapion's out of the picture, there's really not a whole lot on the Arcaniners roster that would have been able to stop Cresselia, which is one of the biggest reasons why I was stunned to see Emvee not bring it. I decided not to bring Rain as opposed to Emvee deciding to bring it, more so because I figured Howler would have anticipated it, because he is a very good draft format player, I will admit to that. He is very solid. I mean, as far as I'm aware, he doesn't have the draft format experience I do, but he is a very solid player, and he definitely knows how to find the most obscure, nitpicky options to be able to suit any situation and turn the tide of battle, which is what happened in our GBA mock final last year when I used the San Francisco Arcaniners roster against him using Cooper Kashiro's Utah Jasmine. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I lost that game 5-0. I had a bad prep, admittedly, on top of the fact that I played that game sick. And Howler just had way better prep than I did altogether. It was the perfect storm for me getting my ass handed to me. So I was kind of looking for a bit of revenge this time around. Did I get it? Well, let's hop over to the game and find out exactly what happened, shall we? Alright guys, here we are with the battle about to commence. Just showing you the team preview really quick before I get into the replay. Doing this Emvee style, but since, as I said, we already played the game. You can see the team I brought on the left. If you saw the team builder from, well, the first like 15 minutes of this video, then you know what I'm bringing. As I said, he ended up bringing almost the exact same team George did. The one and only exception is he ended up bringing Togekiss, where George didn't. I believe George brought, it'll probably appear in the video, because I cannot remember off the top of my head what George brought instead of Togekiss, which is really sad that my memory's that fuzzy already. But I do know George didn't bring Togekiss. Howler did bring Togekiss to our little mock final here, so let's go ahead and get into this and see how it ended up playing out. So, as Lord Emvee would say, there's Howler. He's going to be issuing that challenge. He goes ahead and leads off with Water Doge, which is his Suicune, as I proceed to land off with Chimp Cat, which I thought was a really solid lead just because of the Scarf. I could get some scouting done. This wasn't exactly the best opening matchup for me, because, obviously, I mean, I'm in there against a water type, and he could easily just scald me. I decided to U-turn out. I know there was a very good chance he was probably just going to go ahead and maybe set up a Calm Mind on me, but I wanted to get Chimp Cat out of there. Did some nice chip damage, too, as I could just go straight into Impressive, and he fires off a Shadow Ball right away, which leads me to believe, he does get a crit on it. It leads me to believe he was probably going to end up, he might have predicted the Cresselia to come in, predicting me to predict the Calm Mind. So, I just go ahead and take the opportunity to get my rocks up as he switches into Garchomp. But my rocks are up, so I feel like I'm in a good position. And now I just go ahead and switch straight into Cresselia, knowing that because of Levitate, I'll be able to dodge an Earthquake. He instead sets up his own rocks, so this is at least a Stealth Rock Garchomp. I needed to find out this thing was Rocks 3 attacks, or what kind of set he was running. He does switch it out, which led me to believe initially that there was a possibility that thing might be Scarfed. Scarf Rocks seems weird, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility. Regardless, I go ahead and set up a sub as he brings Suicune back in now, which was an interesting play. I'm assuming because he wants to Shadow Ball me into Oblivion. Gonna go ahead and get some nice leftovers recovery there. So, I waste no time in starting to set up Calm Minds. I know he still has the Drapion lingering around, but with enough Calm Minds, I can deal with that thing with Ice Beam, so I'm not entirely concerned. He just ends up going for the Shadow Ball and proceeds to, I believe, break my sub first try. No, he did not. I could have sworn he did, but I guess the +1 defense boost did get me out of Shadow Ball range. To be fair, it isn't stab. I go ahead and set up a second Calm Mind, and I'm also noticing at this point that this Suicune is not leftovers, which leads me to believe there's a really good chance that he's running some kind of Crocoon, which what further baffles me is the fact that he's not trying to Calm Mind up along with me, which starts to lead me to think that maybe he doesn't have the Calm Mind. He also isn't roaring me out, even though I'm clearly sitting here Calm Minding in his face, and that's the only reason I keep doing it too, is because, and now he switches out, which tells me here he does not have the roar, so he's got no way of really stopping me from setting up all these boosts. He goes into Drapion as I proceed to set up another sub. This is the scenario I was talking about in the team builder. If I'm safely behind a sub, I can easily smash this thing with an Ice Beam and punch a huge hole into probably the one thing that really stops Crest from running through this team. He goes ahead and goes for a knockoff, which is obviously going to break my sub. And I proceed to do exactly what I said I was going to do, which is fire off an Ice Beam and check out this damage. That's really solid damage, all things considered. I do pop his Air Balloon as well, which he obviously brought that because of the likes of Chimp Cat. I'm going to go ahead and get Crescent Peace out of here. It's just going to say peace out as I go into Impressive now, because I thought at this point Impressive might actually be the least useful mon on my team, as I just let it take this Earthquake. Losing my Shucka Berry doesn't bother me too terribly, but he goes for another knockoff. I know, now, I did break the air balloon as I proceed to Scald here and actually take the Drapion out, which is a giant obstacle out of the way, and his biggest answer to Crest is gone now. So, Superior comes in now. It kind of baffled me a bit maybe he didn't have it, but I would have probably put Pursuit on Drapion myself, just in case to try to catch the Crest. Regardless, I'm not leaving Empoleon in to take this thing on because of the health it's at. So I'm just going to go straight into Slime as he actually goes for the Giga Drain. Probably just looking to try to get some HP back from... it was probably a middle ground play, knowing I was likely to switch out. And he does start to recognize, I think at this point, that I do have AV, as he goes right into the Garchomp. I, however, am just going to go straight for the knockoff because I can get rid of the item on anything. It's a safe neutral play. And I end up getting the Poison Touch, which actually does help in wearing down this Garchomp. I am going to take Rough Skin damage, and I end up knocking off a Yache Berry, which was rather smart prep on his part for the potential Cresselia Ice Beam, along with any other Ice-type moves I could have brought, because Garchomp is a giant threat to this team. Now, here I go into Magnificent, knowing that I'll be able to dodge an Earthquake because of the Air Balloon. And he reveals the Toxic here. He told me after the game he was expecting Cresselia to come in, and I don't blame him for making that prediction. He switches out here feeling that he's not going to be able to touch this thing as he goes back into Superior. And I'm just going to go ahead and fire off a Flash Cannon because it would have been able to kill Garchomp from the range it was at after the poison damage. And it does a nice chunk to the Superior, even so, well, granted it was a crit, but... more hacks is going to come into my favor. I mean, if I'm playing Emvee, I might as well get the hacks in my favor, right? I do apologize for all that, Howler. But he misses the Leaf Storm, I kill Superior with Hidden Power Fire, and that's the end of that. So Mew comes in now, and I want to find out what on earth this thing is almost immediately, because obviously this thing can do anything, and I want to know how to handle it. So I proceed to do some scouting. I do lose my air balloon because of the knockoff as I bolt switch out on it. So I know for a fact it's got knockoff. I safely go into Slime here, figuring that it's going to be able to take just about anything this Mew could probably throw at me. I mean, if he knocks out my Assault Vest, it's not the end of the world. And obviously I'm immune to any Psychic type attack because of the Dark typing. Here he reveals the Earthquake, which really caught me off guard. But check this out. Slime is able to live on 1 HP as I go for the Pursuit, expecting him to switch out and do a hefty amount of damage. He reveals the Leftover, so he is not running a Z Crystal for this game, even though Mew is the Arcaniners Z Captain. And that just means I'm able to safely fire off a Shadow Sneak and get this Mew out of here. Which, he was not happy about that, and I don't blame him. Because I literally lived on 1 HP. So things are actually starting to look really bad for him here, because I am in complete control at this point as he goes back into Suicune. I proceed to go ahead and Shadow Sneak just because of the fact that I want to get some chip damage off on this thing. Maybe potentially activate Poison Touch again. It doesn't happen, and he goes for Shadow Ball one more time, which takes out Slime. Kind of interesting that he hasn't even revealed some kind of Water Stab yet. He's been exclusively sticking to Shadow Ball, which makes me wonder... I just go back into Crest here because I know Crest can take care of this thing. He doesn't have Roar. He hasn't shown Calm Mind. It's very likely he's probably Crocoon, but it just baffles me that I think Shadow Ball is actually the one and only attacking move he actually used throughout this entire game now that I think about it. As you see here, he proceeds to go for the Shadow Ball again as I go ahead and just Calm Mind up. There was a part of me that was starting to think he might actually be choiced in some way, just because of the fact that he was exclusively sticking to Shadow Ball. I go ahead and fire off a Side Shock just to gauge how much damage I'm doing from +1, and he's going to go ahead and fire off another Shadow Ball at me, which isn't the end of the world. He's not getting any special defense drops, which, I guess, more luck in my favor. Go me, pretending to be Lord Emvee. I just set up a second Calm Mind right in his face. I haven't even gotten a sub up yet because I know the Suicune can't touch me. Even though I feel I probably should have Calm Mind subbed at some point. He reveals the rest here, which confirms that he is in fact a Crocoon. Especially since after he gets back to full HP, he is going to reveal that his item is in fact a Chesto Berry. Which kind of interests me that he went that route. I mean, I guess Shadow Ball does super effectively hit Crest, but I mean, at this point, maybe try... Well, I guess with the burn nerf, it really doesn't matter if he were to get a burn on me if he was running Scald. He goes for Shadow Ball again, as I go ahead and set myself up behind a sub at this point, knowing that since I'm sitting at +2, he is not going to be able to break it at all. And from here, I'm basically free to take a little stroll down Calm Mind City. Especially since now he's at full health, I want to be able to get to a point where I can do enough damage to this thing. Especially since I know I outspeed this thing. I put enough speed investment in it to speed creep the Suicune. Just to make sure, in case I ended up in this kind of scenario, if we were to get into a Calm Mind war. He goes ahead and hits me with another Shadow Ball. Sitting at +3 means he's not going to be able to break my sub for the second turn in a row. And I honestly feel comfortable just going ahead, getting up another Calm Mind, getting up to +4, as I know the Shadow Ball is going to launch here because of the HP that gets put into the substitute. My sub is probably going at this point no matter what happens. So, Shadow Ball comes out, the sub's going to eat it, and he actually got a crit too, which is kind of funny, but entirely unnecessary. I know the sub probably would have been broken at that point anyway, even with me being +4. Regardless, from this point, I just go ahead, set myself up behind the sub one more time, because at this point, with Drapion gone, Crest runs through his team. That is pretty crystal clear at this point, or crystal clear, I guess, if you really want to go that route. Emvee with the heat puns and all of his video titles. I wish I was that clever half the time. Regardless, I feel +4 is enough to get the job done at this point, so I'm going to go ahead, fire off a Psy Shock, do a hefty amount of damage, do over half, and I know he's not leftovers, which means my next Psy Shock, I will be able to outspeed as he fires off another Shadow Ball. I'll be able to outspeed. My Psy Shock will be able to take him out from this range. I calced it, even at a low roll, I could have, I do about half damage anyway, and he is just under half. So, Psy Shock comes out, Suicune goes down, and Crest is really sitting pretty right now. Poor Suicune. You tried, but honestly, not having Roar on that thing was probably the biggest prep that hurt Howler there. Out is going to come the Togekiss, and I'll give Howler credit for this. He caught me off guard with this one. Running extreme speed of all things on Togekiss, which is going to be enough to break my sub. That was actually really interesting. But this thing is not going to be able to take a +4 Ice Beam whatsoever. And at this point, the last mon he has is Garchomp, which its Yachi Berry is gone. It's poison. It's gotten the tar kicked out of it all game. Even if it did have the Yachi Berry, I'm sitting at +4, so I doubt that really would have been able to do much of anything. He is going to go ahead and finally get the Toxic off on Crest at this point, but by now, it's too little too late, I'm afraid, because I'm just going to go ahead and Ice Beam him here, and that is going to be the game. So, that is a 5-0 victory and I also got a crit too, just to rub salt in the wounds. So, there you go. That is our GBA mock final for this season that Howler and I played. As revenge for the 5-0 he got on me last season, I 5-0'd him this time around. Unfortunately, our GBA mock battle results do not accurately reflect the actual GBA final results, which is kind of sad. Seems like 2 years in a row now where whoever has played with George's team has gotten the snot kicked out of them. And yet, when we get to the actual finals, George proceeds to go ahead and just win. Granted, I could complain about the whole thing that happened at the end of that battle, just because Emvee did have the game in hand at that point. But, it is what it is. Still, that was a great game, Howler. You did have some solid prep. It's just, sometimes I just think there's not much you can really do against a well-EV'd Cresselia set if your team just doesn't have the the tools to take it out. Which, again, surprises me that Emvee did not bring it, considering once Drapion was gone, there was really nothing, as I proved in this game even, once Drapion went down, there was really nothing standing between Crest and a sweep. But it is what it is. So, thank you guys so very much for watching this GBA mock final between Howler and I. I have been Ruppy, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.